Okay, so guys, imagine an MMO where 100% of the game revenue goes back to the players. Not 50%, not partial, 100%. That's exactly what the new ROM on Cross is claiming, at least for Season 1. Now, I know that you already know ROM had its first version under Wimix, and let's be honest, I think it didn't really end well. So when I saw that they redesigned the entire economy of ROM, like they added a fixed total supply and structured Season 1 around revenue redistribution, that caught my attention. Because this is not just a small balance update, this is a complete shift in how the economy works. So today we're going to break down how the old Wimix version worked and how the new Cross version works, and why this is actually very different, especially if you're an MMO player who doesn't even care about crypto. Trust me guys, today you're going to learn something very special. Okay, so let's start with the Wimix version. So here, players could convert in-game resources into tokens, and in Web3 language that's actually called minting, but in MMO terms, just imagine that while grinding mobs, you could convert your farm materials into gold, and then you can instantly cash that gold out into real money. So that's basically how it works. So what happened before, the more players grind, the more tokens are created, and since player could instantly swap those tokens into stable coins, basically into real money, there was always that option to just sell right away. Now at the start, this might actually feel really good, especially when hype is strong and more players are joining, because at the early stage, for sure, there are players whose main objective is to earn money, and honestly, I respect that. That's basically the reason why some of players choose Play-to-Earn MMOs instead of just normal MMOs. So during the early phase, they take advantage of the opportunity while momentum is high, and during that early phase, the system looks very attractive because there were still a lot of players who want to buy, upgrade, and compete. So basically the demand is strong. But once growth slows down, like when players are already geared up, or they don't really need more upgrades, or there's nothing urgent to spend the token on, then what happened is, instead of using the token inside the game, they can just sell it right away. And at the same time, farming is still ongoing, still happening. So basically, supply keeps increasing, but demand is no longer growing at the same speed. And when supply grows faster than demand, naturally value starts to drop. It's basically MMO inflation, but now tied to real money. And that's how Wimix ROM was structured. It worked very well during the early growth phase, but because it is heavily dependent on continuous expansion, once growth is slowed down, the system becomes fragile. But I wouldn't say that this was automatically bad. It was just more suited for expansion cycles, not long-term stability. Now, if you're playing Legend of YMIR, you notice it feels different. In Emir, Wimix rewards are controlled. For example, every week we have this dungeon where we can farm the token that can be exchanged for real money, and the amount being distributed is actually based on a percentage of the player's spending in the game. So it's not like you can just grind 24/7 and create infinite tokens. Basically, that supply is not unlimited, it's limited. And because of that, they were somehow able to keep the value of what's being farmed relatively stable, even compared to day one of the server. So for example, this coin here hasn't really dropped that much. The value is actually even increasing, not because it's magic, but because somehow supply is controlled. Now let's talk about the cross version of ROM, and just to summarize it quickly, structurally it's now closer to Legend of YMIR, like supply is controlled, rewards are structured, it's not just infinite farming anymore. But this season they added one major difference, and you will be surprised on this one. They're saying that all season 1 game revenue goes into the reward pool. So basically what is happening in the game is every time players buy something from the shop this season 1, that money doesn't just go straight to the company, it funds the seasonal rewards. So rewards are now coming from player spending, so that's a completely different philosophy. It means if players enjoy the game and spend more, the reward pool increases and grows. And if players don't spend, rewards shrink. So now the sustainability of the earning side of the game depends on engagement and not inflation. And again, when you look carefully at this structure, it really feels closer to Legend of YMIR. The difference is here in ROM, they're going all in right now with this 100% revenue back to players for season Season 1. And that's actually a crazy move for a company or a business, because let's be real guys, if a business or company gives back 100% of what they earn, and let's say they will be doing this forever, like every season, how are they going to sustain the game development, the game servers, the weekly or monthly updates, or the marketing of the game? So personally, I don't think this is meant to be permanent. This feels more like a Season 1 strategy, maybe a trust recovery mode, because we all know the previous version under Wimix that didn't end well, right? So for me, if you're going to relaunch something like this, you really need a strong statement to bring back the trust of the people. And allocating 100% of Season 1 revenue to players is definitely a strong statement, guys. It's basically saying we're confident enough in this new structure that we're willing to align ourselves directly with player performance. Now, whether this continues in future season, we'll have to see. But if you're playing ROM right now during this Season 1, then yes, you're probably in one of the most interesting phase of this game, because this is the season where they're trying to rebuild trust. And when a company is rebuilding trust, that's usually when players get the most value. So for those of you guys who stay in the game and still playing this now, then congrats guys for being active on Season 1. You deserve guys what you are about to get. But anyway guys, let's move on to the other parts. The second big change here is they already have this fixed total supply of 100 million. So in Web3 terms, they cap the total supply at 100 million, meaning no matter what happens, the system cannot go beyond that number. Now in MMO terms, it's like saying there's a fixed total amount of gold in the entire server. So no matter how much you grind, no matter how many mobs you kill, the gold printer cannot go beyond that cap. There's a hard limit, and that's very different from a system where gold keeps getting created based on activity. Because once you put a hard cap, you're basically introducing real scarcity, not flexible scarcity, real fixed scarcity. So this one is honestly really good. And also guys, one more thing, they added a deposit system where players deposit ROM X to earn cross the rewards. So in simple terms again, instead of farming and selling right away, it becomes more like farming, then depositing what you farm into something like a time deposit in a bank. You lock it for a period of time, and while it's locked, you earn a share of the reward pool. Now, here's the important part. Once you lock those tokens, they're no longer circulating in the market. So basically, circulating supply goes down, and when supply hitting the market decreases, sell pressure naturally slows down. Because we all know one of the main reasons value drops in the system is constant selling and cashing out. If everyone farms and instantly sells, supply floods the market, but if a portion gets locked instead, that dumping pressure is reduced, and that helps stabilize the value. So guys, if we zoom out for a moment, old ROM basically rewarded activity. The more you grind, the more gold that you can exchange for real money gets created. And that works very well in the early days, but it's hard to sustain in the long run, especially when there's no real limit to farming. Now, the new ROM, it rewards contribution. So instead of mobs printing value, the rewards are now coming from what players actually spend inside the game. That means the system is no longer creating unlimited new value from farming. Instead of expanding the total gold supply, they're reallocating existing value inside the ecosystem. And that's not just a small patch or balance change. So basically, ROM on Cross is totally different from the ROM on Wimix. And personally guys, what I really find interesting is how play-to-earn MMOs have evolved over time. I've been studying more about crypto and blockchain recently, but what really caught my attention is if you look at early play-to-earn games, like their play-to-earn model, most of them just rewarded early investors. Usually the first one who got in before it goes viral earned the most, and the last one, they usually suffered. That's just how the structure worked before. And honestly, this is also why a lot of NFT game content back then felt questionable. You know, like sometimes creators were already invested early, then they introduce the game to their viewers. Viewers come in thinking about ROI, but they don't realize first ensures that early players may have already recovered their investment through them. So when late players enter, the risk is much higher for them. And that's why I personally was not really a fan of play to earn before, because the focus of earning was not really about gameplay. It was more about the timing, like who entered first. But when companies and games like ROM on Cross started applying play to earn mechanics inside actual MMO structures, especially seasonal competitive ones where the play to earn model started to evolve, became less about who entered first and more about who performs best this season. So that's a big difference. Like if the game performs well, players benefit. If the game underperforms, rewards naturally shrink. And that's actually closer to traditional MMO logic. The only difference is when the game becomes successful, players also get to share in that success. Now, whether this will succeed long term, that actually depends on obviously gameplay, trust, and consistency. But one thing is clear, ROM on Cross is not the same ROM economy as before, and that's exactly why this relaunch is worth analyzing. Alright, so guys, that's it for today. I hope this helped you understand the bigger picture of the game, especially on the earning side, even if you're not really into crypto. And if you want, next time we can actually test how this plays out in practice. I just need to level up a bit more first. But anyway guys, as always, whatever you're playing there, happy gaming.